Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are here with Austin from Ohio, and today is Sunday, April 11th, 2021. I have a few things for you today that you might find interesting, I hope, because this is very important what myself and others are doing. Try to bring awareness to our current reality, our current situation. I wanted to do this video earlier, but had to go shopping today and get some food and whatnot, and then got home, cooked dinner and stuff, sat down and ate, hung out for a little bit, and I'm getting to this now. It's currently 7:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As you can see here, I set up an Odysee account today, and I currently have one upload, and it is the video of the people who sold their souls, who admitted to selling their souls and things of that nature. I will leave a link in the description for my Odysee channel. It's kind of confusing because they got like the credits and stuff and this and that, but there may come a point in time where I will only be allowed here. And here I can post unfiltered, raw truth, real life, straight up, no talking in code, no censorship, nothing. I could talk about anything I want and it will not get taken down. So if you can go in the description box, which if you're watching this as soon as the video went up, you might have to give me a couple minutes because I have to wait until the video is done uploading, and then I have to go in and put the link after that. But yes, I did make an Odysee, and there is a chance that this will eventually be my last stand, you could say. The Alamo. My Alamo, I guess. It's good that I set it up right now. A lot of people have been telling me to do that. I was kind of off about it at first because I didn't know if it was going to be like super hard or if it would be hard to get people to go over there to view my content and stuff, but I already got 15 of you that came over, which is honestly good enough for me. One person is good enough for me. And I will be making a video on my off day on YouTube tomorrow, a real good one to put on here. A real uncensored, unfiltered, straight up, no bullshit truth. And there's a lot of stuff that I have that I will not put on YouTube that I will definitely put on here. The site claims to be free speech. We will see about that. I hope you all been having a good weekend so far. I have. Not too bad. Got some shopping done today. Got some cleaning done yesterday. Nothing too crazy going on in my neck of the woods. Actually, been a lot of military activity lately overhead. And I know there's somebody on here from Washington, PA, which is close to where I live. So, Mark, if you have seen the military craft going by lately, because they have been flying down your way, please let me know if you've seen them. I don't know if they're just like going down the river a little bit and then circling back, but there's been Chinooks, Black Hawks. There's been, I'm sure, a bunch of other ones at nighttime, but the ones that I've seen recently with my own eyes, I tried to get them on film, but it didn't end up working out because I couldn't get my camera up fast enough and they were gone. So, I will get them on film though, don't worry about that. I also want to thank you guys. You guys have been great. You guys have been amazing, actually. Very encouraging. Your comments and your kind words keep me going, keep me doing this, and it reminds me why I do this. Because there are great people out there who need to understand and know what's going on so that they do not become victims of the tyranny that is coming. Well, that's here, actually. It's not coming, it's here. It just hasn't manifested at your front door yet. Give it time, it will. Most definitely. They got a lot of stuff in the works. Some stuff I hope to really break wide open on here and give my perspective on it, and hopefully I can start changing people's perceptions of certain things. Because a lot of people, most people, let's face it, are statists. Let's face it. That's what they are. They'll make any excuse whatsoever to side with the state. Like, oh, maybe you shouldn't have been doing this. Oh, maybe you shouldn't have been doing that. Like, those certain things they don't make you a bad person. Legality does not equal morality. Ever. Ever. Ever, 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 ever. You can try to legislate according to your moral compass, or the moral compass that we all should be following, which are the 10 Commandments. You could try to legislate that way, but the nature of man and the way that we are, we always want more power, and when we get power, we always want to hold on to it and to get more. And any one of us, if we were in the position of these people at the top, we would not want to give up that power either. But enough of that. Enough of my rambling. I'm going to keep making jokes about that. Let's get going. I ran this story recently. I forget how many videos ago it was. I think it was sometime last month or so. But I wanted to come on again and put this out there again because I believe, and I will keep saying this, I believe that the next false flag, big false flag, will be a power out scenario. Power outage, bank crash, martial law, UN peacekeepers, NATO troops. Yes. And it won't just be all the UN troops and NATO troops. No, it'll be other UN member nations troops as well. Because if you remember the piece that I was doing on the United Nations, any member nation of the United Nations, any of their militaries can be called upon to be deployed to another member nation or non-member nation. So, for instance, the power goes out, money system collapses, the whole country just gets thrown into chaos overnight, not even overnight, within a split second. Think about how people act whenever the power goes out for, let's say, 2 hours. 2 hours, that's it. People start getting a little restless. Can't get on your phone, can't get on your whatever. Now imagine when the power goes out, and it's not going to be that they're just going to cut the power off. No. Your car won't even work because EMPs don't turn the power off. They overload all electrical systems. And any car made after like 1980, 79 or 80, I forget exactly, somebody can correct me on that, runs off of computers. That was on purpose for this type of scenario here. And if you remember, back at the end of 2018, FEMA said that Americans need to be prepared for 6 months or longer with no power. All of their stuff will be protected because they've taken steps to increase the resilience of their infrastructure. Not ours, theirs. All their little gadgets and tools will still work. But I do believe that the next big false flag will be an EMP. And back to the little scenario that I was drawing up. Okay, let's say the power goes out, boom. Can't drive a car. Can't really go to the store. And if you do make it to the store, everybody's already going to be fighting over the food. Because those who panic will ultimately meet their demise first. That's the truth. And that's why we prepare, I hope. I hope all of you have adequate water supplies, food supplies, defense supplies, things of that nature. But power goes out. It's been 2 or 3 days. the United Nations now declares the United States as a whole or little regions in general, because at that point in time, we will be operating off of the FEMA regions. We won't be operating off of the states anymore. But let's say FEMA Region 4, that's where I'm at. So it's like Ohio, Indiana, Michigan. I think that's actually it. Illinois, maybe. Let's say that we just get hit with the EMP. United Nations can now use their troops, NATO troops, our own military, Russians, Chinese, any other military they want to in their little round table they got going on up there, and they can deploy those troops to FEMA Region 4 to, quote, restore order, or to, quote, peacekeep. That's how that would work. That also goes for the, like, gun confiscation type deals. People always say, oh, there's not enough police and military in the United States to get this going on. There's absolutely no way that they could. Yeah, because they won't be using the police and the military alone. They will be using UN, other countries' militaries on our soil. But anyway, this one reads, DHS prep for EMP includes upcoming FEMA exercise, possible program office. And this was September 2020, so that this was not that long ago. A new status report on the Department of Homeland Security's preparations to confront the threat of an electromagnetic pulse, EMP, attack and respond to a potentially catastrophic event, says DHS is working to evaluate the need for a program management office to provide steady, consistent leadership in both the public and private sector engagements on risk reduction. The United States could face massive blackouts and disabled technology from rare solar superstorms like the 1859 Carrington event, a nuclear weapon detonated at high altitude, sabotage of the electric grid with the use of small weapons, or explosives against extra high voltage transformers, or a complex attack that includes a combination of cyber attack, sabotage, and nuclear attack. So you see, they're already giving us these scenarios that they could blame it on. They could detonate an EMP and they could say, oh, the electric grid was sabotaged with the use of small arms and explosives by, what would they say? Oh, far-right militias or something like that, or who knows? And of course they would blame us, because that's how it has to come down in. Doesn't matter if you consider yourself far-right, far-left, none at all, or maybe you don't buy into that, which you shouldn't, because the left-right paradigm, of course, is a fallacy. It's fake. It's a show. It only serves to divide and conquer the population. Anyway, they say nuclear weapon at high altitude. They could do that and blame another country, plunge us into chaos, and invade that country at the same time. Boom. Or they could say, oh, it was a solar storm, and yeah, that's what it was. No. Or a cyber attack. Here's where it gets interesting. A nationwide blackout could last a year or longer, gravely impacting the food and water supply, healthcare and sanitation, public safety, communications, transportation, bringing society to a standstill, and sparking starvation and spread of disease. So they're already saying it could be a year or longer. This is all the stuff that it would affect. Kind of the perfect problem, reaction, solution scenario, wouldn't you think? Excuse me. It's kind of the perfect scenario that they could use to fully implement their New World Order. Because then they could send their little agents to play heroes. All these people saved us. They love us. No. This is what I was talking about earlier. In October 18, DHS released the Strategy for Protecting and Preparing the Homeland Against Threats from Electromagnetic Pulse and Geomagnetic Disturbance, which said that an EMP-related intelligence gathering, sharing, and analysis at the time remained, quote, largely stovepiped within the federal government and across DHS, which leads to disparate understanding of potential electromagnetic threats and hazards, creating uncertainties about how DHS should address critical infrastructure vulnerabilities. In March 2019, the White House unveiled an executive order coordinating national resilience to electromagnetic pulses, stating that the federal government will engage in risk-informed planning, wonder what that is, and prioritize research and development into EMP protection, response, and recovery, and will promote collaboration and facilitate information sharing, including the sharing of threat and vulnerability assessments among executive departments and agencies and stakeholders. Interesting. Part of Homeland Security's broad focus under the executive order is to ensure timely EMP info gets to state and local governments with a duty to coordinate response to and recovery from the effects of EMPs on critical infrastructure, exercise EMP scenarios, maintain survivable means to provide necessary emergency information to the public during and after EMPs, and develop quadrennial risk assessments. Let me kick in another scenario. Nationwide blackout EMP goes off, or however it happens. Not only can they, move even faster with their Great Reset and all of that, but if our power goes down and our economy collapses, the whole world economy is going to collapse. The dollar is still the world reserve currency. All other countries are still backed by the confidence in the US dollar. Our system goes down, all systems go down. And then, how do we solve this problem? I got it. Global currency. One world currency. This is problem, reaction, solution on a huge scale. And they can also be in line with the first thing on the Georgia Guidestones, and they can pretend to help, and the public will trust the government. And when you trust the government, you will be led to the slaughter every time. Especially when they say, just come on down to this little shelter we have in your area here. We converted these Walmarts into shelters, and you can come down, you can have a nice hot meal, and you can get a shower, and you'll only be here temporarily. And they're not lying to you. You only will be there temporarily, because as soon as you step in that shower, you're dead. Oh, we didn't lie. We said he was only going to be here temporarily. It's called doublespeak. It's what they do. DHS was also directed to identify and list the national critical functions and associated priority critical infrastructure systems, networks, and assets, including space-based assets that, if disrupted, could reasonably result in catastrophic national or regional effects on public health or safety, economic security, or national security. A list that DHS will keep updated. DHS was told that it shall review test data, identifying any gaps in such data, regarding the effects of EMP on critical infrastructure systems, networks, and assets. Within 6 months after that, DHS, in coordination with other agencies, was expected to develop an integrated cross-sector plan to address the identified gaps. So really, they're just going through all this in this upcoming exercise they have. I'm not sure if they told us yet when that was going to be, but they're going through all the scenarios, because that's what these people do. They're psychopaths. They have to go through every single little scenario. And they understand human nature so well, because they've hid that knowledge from the rest of us and only passed it down to themselves and their posterity, that they know how we will react. They know exactly what we would do in said situations. And they run these simulations like this so they can be prepared and they can pretty much understand every single scenario that would happen and have a plan for it so they don't lose control at any point in time. I hope you understand what I'm saying here. Let's see. I'm just going to skip down through here because I'm trying to... This document said that DHS initial efforts have focused on risk management in the communications and energy sectors. Oh yeah, that's what you have to do. You got to cut the communication first. That's it. If we can't communicate, we're blind, deaf, and dumb. Let's see. When is the... DHS said it's building EMP considerations into internal continuity and mission assurance plans and associated resourcing, and FEMA has designed and built EMP-hardened communications facilities to support continuity of preparation and response directives from the federal government to the public. Excuse me. Basically, what that's saying is that they're building EMP considerations and stuff, and it says it's to support and harden communications facilities to support continuity of preparation and response directives from the federal government to the public. They want to make sure that they are the only people that we get the information from. They want to make sure that you are not getting any information from anywhere else. Like listening to me right now. I'm not going to be able to sit here and get on here and say, hey guys, EMP just went off. All this crazy stuff's going on. No. First of all, EMP goes off. I'm ditching this phone, ditching my car, and I'm jumping in the river. Not really. But I'll be gone. Here's where they start talking about the, quote, exercise. FEMA is also developing an interagency EMP exercise in fiscal year 2021 to address the unique, widespread cross-sector effects of an EMP event and challenge planning assumptions used by federal planners when considering EMP actions. Wait. To address the unique, widespread cross-sector effects of an EMP event and challenge planning assumptions used by federal planners when considering EMP actions? I'm sorry, but doesn't that sound like that they're considering dropping EMP? DHS, Energy Department, and Nuclear Regulatory Commission began collaboration in March to, quote, validate the continued operation of key safety features of nuclear power plants in a post-EMP environment. Expected completion is in late 2021. DHS S&T, not sure what that is, developed a technology scouting report cataloging a number of available EMP protection equipment and testing organizations. That report will be made available to the federal agencies and private sector partners through the Homeland Security Information Network. S&T is also reaching out to international partners for mitigation strategies. You don't see on here where it says that DHS and FEMA and the federal government are working to harden public infrastructure. No. No, no, no. As funding becomes available, S&T, in coordination with CISA, will conduct vulnerability testing of prioritized critical infrastructure components, as well as validation testing of potentially applicable mitigation options for those components in order to better inform critical infrastructure owners and operators on what actions they could take to protect their systems, the report notes. Yeah, they want to make sure that all of their stuff is going to be fine. And it's just going to be our stuff, our infrastructure. Why do you think we're still using the same telephone poles and whatnot from like the 1800s? It's still a hunk of wood with wires running through it, connected to metal, to other poles. Come on. We should be running off of underground fiber optics. No need for telephone poles or nothing. Everything can be done underground. Actually, with the technology we have now, everything can be done via Wi-Fi and airwaves. They won't tell you that, though. CISA's Resilient Power Working Group is developing resilient power guidelines to be used to support EMP mitigation planning. DHS is likewise partnering with other federal departments and agencies, state, local, tribal, and territorial entities. Tribal? Whatever. As well as the private sector to field test EMP mitigation and protection technologies. These pilots are a multi-sector, multi-function effort seeking to ensure key capabilities continue to function in a post-EMP environment, and that by maintaining those key functions we can expedite a full recovery, says the report. Working with federal interagency partners, DHS will play a major role in ensuring communication systems remain operational, and by ensuring key systems which are protected against EMP are also protected against other threats, such as cyber attacks. The Commission to Assess the Threat to the United States from Electromagnetic Pulse (EMP) attack was established in the 2001 National Defense Authorization Act to study U.S. vulnerability to such an attack and recovery capability. It was tasked with identifying steps that the U.S. could take to harden military and civilian systems against the threat of an EMP. Such attack would give North Korea and countries that have only a small number of nuclear weapons the ability to cause widespread, long-lasting damage to critical national infrastructures of the United States itself, as a viable country and the survival of a majority of its population, said the Commission's July 2017 Chairman's report, which recommended that implementation of cybersecurity for the electric grid and other critical infrastructures include EMP protection, since all-out cyber warfare is planned by Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran includes nuclear EMP attack, and integrating EMP and cyber protection will be both the least expensive and most technically sound approach. So they have a number of boogeymen to blame it on. Oh, it was Russia. Oh, no, it was China. No, it was North Korea. Here's an idea for you. All of those governments just listed, they work together. Otherwise, the U.S. president would never be able to set foot in North Korea as Donald Trump did. If North Korea was this centralized, secret state, totalitarian state that hates everybody, there's no way that Donald Trump would have been able to go there and set foot in their country without being, well, you already know what I'm getting at. And check out this little tidbit from Homeland Security Today. EMP, not mushroom cloud, is greatest rogue nuke threat. Some estimates suggest that an electromagnetic pulse attack could kill up to 90% of U.S. population. Well, wouldn't that just be lovely for them? That would literally bring us down to about where they want. And yes, this could actually end up killing a lot of people. And they know it too. This is why we need to get off the grid. Yeah, look at me. I'm saying we need to get off the grid as I'm using the grid to put information out. Hypocrite, Austin. No, I'm just messing. I'll be delivering mail by bicycle or horse, EMP goes. I'll be writing little papers. Papers, get your papers here. Austin from Ohio. Everyone's door. But yes, EMP would most definitely, first of all, it would take out everybody who is in the hospital. Because as soon as all those machines overload, oh man, I don't even want to know what that would be like. All the older people that need technology to live. All the children that are, well, that depend on technology to survive. So many people would be, this scenario right here would be the absolute greatest attack and greatest mass casualty event the United States and the world has ever experienced. This would make 9/11 look like child's play. Not even child's play. That's why I believe that this is going to be the route that they will go. Sooner or later, this is the route that they will go. I don't know when. Nobody knows when. Yeah, just this stuff here. So yes, they're planning this exercise, which is supposed to last until late 2021. So I'm not sure exactly when they're going to start. But I wouldn't be surprised if a few areas will be blacked out during this supposed exercise. Because the last time there was an exercise like this, 2 buildings got dropped in New York City. Granted, it wasn't the same type of operation, but it was similar. This is military, because Homeland Security, believe it or not, it is a industrial complex. Homeland Security is made up of, I believe, 27 different government agencies that were all by themselves until Homeland Security absorbed all of them into one industrial complex. Homeland Security also are the ones who bought all that ammo and distributed it out to Department of Education, places like that, which actually exist within Homeland Security now. So there's that. But yes, we need to make preparations to get off of the grid. There are things that you can get for your vehicle. I'm not sure how reliable they are because I've never used one. Apparently there's EMP shields out there. I don't know about that, so I can't tell you for sure that it would work. But just some things to consider. Like, this is serious stuff that we need to address. This is serious stuff that we need to watch and document, and even have some people in the field going out there and filming these people. Like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? You already know how that would work out, though. They'd point a gun to your head and they'd say, you need to get out of here right now or you're going to jail. Because we're not allowed to watch our government in their activities. The media is supposed to do that, but they won't do it. Let's move on. This is a report that I came across, and I came across this one like 2 days ago, and I was like, yeah, I'll put this in my video. And this is from the 10th Amendment Center. South Carolina House passes bill to take on future federal gun control to enact constitutional carry. Actually, you don't even really have to do that. You could, if you wanted constitutional carry, you could just repeal every single law that you have. on the right to keep and bear arms. But again, if states start going against the federal government on this, the federal government could turn around and say, hey, we're not going to give you any funding. Or they could say, hey, how about we bribe the right people and you go ahead and pass our federal gun control bills and enact the red flag laws. Just something to think about. I mean, states used to be able to stand up to the government and tell them to get the hell out of here because they have no jurisdiction within the states like that. But now if you do it, they could just threaten to cut funding for a number of things. Nevertheless, this is a step in the right direction, and I hope South Carolina and Missouri and other places, I hope they do stand up to the federal government and tell them that they're out of control. And we know what happens when populations are disarmed. I feel like I have to say this a million times. There are people in their 40s and 50s that don't understand that. There are people that have been alive double my age. And the greatest thing that they know is who's the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if they think that that's some great knowledge that they know. And they talk about all the stats and this and that. Then you come up and you're like, hey, well, what about all this real life stuff that's going on that's not part of the bread and circus? And they're like, well, they care about football and beer. There's a quote from the book 1984. And it says, football, beer, and above all else, gambling. Wait, football, beer, and above all else, gambling. It says clouded. That's what it is. Sorry. Try this again. Football, beer, and above all else, gambling clouded the horizon of their minds. To keep them under control was not difficult. Okay, Columbia, South Carolina. Today, South Carolina House passed a bill that would set the foundation to end enforcement of future federal gun control, make it legal for South Carolinians to carry a firearm without a permit, as it should be. Passage into law would represent a major step toward neutering future federal gun laws in South Carolina. Representative B. Cox, Republican, Greenville County, introduced House Bill 3096 on January 12th. As introduced, the legislation would authorize anyone legally allowed to own a gun to carry it without a state-issued license. On the House floor, an amendment was approved adding language to prohibit state or local enforcement of future federal gun control by banning the allocation of any state or local funds for the implementation, regulation, or enforcement of any executive order or directive issued by the President of the United States or an act of the United States Congress that contradicts the provisions of this act relating to constitutional carry or that otherwise regulates the ownership, use, or possession of firearms, ammunition, or firearm accessories if passed after January 1st, 2021. Yes, this is how the United States government is supposed to work. And I explained it before. It goes all the way down to the individual. Federal government tells state to do something, they could say no. Federal government tells state to do something and they say yes. The counties in that state can say no. If all three of them say yes, the towns can say no. Even if your town is the last town in the entire country, they could say no. And if all that fails and it comes down to you, you could say no. And if they try to force it on you, well, that's a different story. It would also ban state and local governments from allocating personnel or property for the implementation, regulation, or enforcement of any executive order, directive issued by the president. It contradicts the provisions of this act relating to constitutional carry or regulates the ownership. Yeah, we already read that. On Wednesday, the House voted 69 to 47 to approve the bill on second reading. And today, the bill was read for the third time, passed, and sent to the Senate. The language addressing federal gun control mirrors the Second Amendment Preservation Act, sponsored by Representative Stuart Jones. Sources close to the 10th Amendment Center said the bill was going to be buried in the House Judiciary Committee by amending the language to H. 3096 after it has already passed committee. Jones gave his bill new life. The federal government relies heavily on state cooperation to implement and enforce almost all of its laws, regulations, and acts. Well, of course it does. They can't do it themselves, including gun control. By simply withdrawing this necessary cooperation, states and localities can nullify many federal actions in effect. As noted by the National Governors Association during the partial government shutdown in 2013, states are partners with the federal government on most federal programs. Yeah, because of threat of cut funding. Based on James Madison's advice for states and individuals in Federalist 46, refusal to cooperate with officers of the Union represents an extremely effective method to bring down federal gun control measures because most enforcement actions rely on help, support, and leadership from state and local governments. Of course. I'm pretty sure those are the papers that I read that I was talking to you guys about it coming all the way down to the individual and how you are the government. We are the government. Well, the Constitution is the government. That's what we govern by. But we, the Americans, are the government. This country was built from the ground up, not from up to the ground. It wasn't built by a federal government that then created all of this stuff. No, it was built by regular working people, farmers, whatever else. Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano agreed. In a televised discussion on the issue, he noted that a single state taking this step would make federal gun laws nearly impossible to enforce. Partnerships don't work too well when half the team quits, said Michael Bolden of the 10th Amendment Center. By withdrawing resources, participation in federal gun control, states and even local governments can help bring these unconstitutional acts to their much-needed end. Yes, if nobody obeys, nobody rules. The states need to start telling the federal government to go pound salt. I want to say something different, but I won't say that to you guys. So I have a lot of respect for the people, my subscribers. And I know most of you probably have a potty mouth as well. I do. I just don't bring it to my videos. Sometimes I might, but depending on how mad I get. How about this? The state of South Carolina can legally bar state agents from enforcing federal gun control. Refusal to cooperate with federal enforcement rests on a well-established legal principle known as anti-commandeering doctrine. Simply put, federal government cannot force states to help implement or enforce any federal act or program. That's true. And I think there was a story from Columbus, the capital of Ohio, where federal agents or the ATF, they were trying to go and take this pistol off this college kid. And the kid called the cops, and the Columbus police went and arrested the ATF agents. That's what I like to see. That is American Republic government working. Good police should be arresting bad police. for enforcing illegal laws. And if you're a cop and you enforce illegal laws, you are helping to destroy this nation. You are helping the New World Order gain foothold in the United States. How do you think they even got a foothold here to begin with? If you're a police officer and you listen and you're here, I would advise that you do everything within your power to hold on to your oath. Live up to your oath. Remember your oath. And if you can't think about the oath in your head and recite it and say it every single day and remember it, maybe you should do that. Because I'm pretty sure that oath is to the Constitution, not to the state government, not to the federal government, not to anybody else except the Constitution. That's it in the Bill of Rights. Oh no! I lost my Zippo. Down under my seat. Sorry guys, gotta fish it out real quick. I hate that. Yeah, I'll just get it after I'm done. Son of a bitch. Anyway. If more cops and more agents, whoever, would stand up and say, no, I'm not going to do that. That's against my oath. And if you're worried about getting fired, guess what you can do? You can arrest your boss. You know why? Because it's illegal for him to try to get you to enforce any illegal laws. It is. It's 100% illegal. If I was a police officer and in my town and my chief wanted me to go start doing home-to-home inspections, which actually, in a couple towns over, this guy at work was telling me that their police chief wanted to do that, to look for drugs. And I was like, dude, he cannot. He does not have that authority to conduct home-to-home searches for drugs. They don't have the authority to conduct home-to-home searches like they did in Boston in 2013 during the Boston bombing, which was martial law test run, if you don't remember. Remember the show of force they had? Tanks, blacked out soldiers marching down the street. People had to stay in their house and the police had to bring them their gallon of milk. And people were chanting USA, USA. You know how pissed off I was back then when that was going on? I'm getting pissed off now thinking about it. They ran that for like 10 days. Just looking for those guys who I believe didn't do it. Even their father said they were set up, which they were. I was so pissed off when that was going on because I would just sit there and watch it. And I was living at my dad's at the time. And people were chanting USA, USA as tanks were rolling down the street. And armed soldiers were conducting home-to-home searches, seizing guns and other property under the guise of looking for these two guys. That's not acceptable. If you think that tyranny and militarized police is freedom, how the hell are you going to know what a dictatorship looks like or totalitarianism? You're not. There was this guy that had a saying, it's a quote, he said, when the police and the military become indistinguishable, like when the police start looking like the military and conducting military-like operations, the enemy tend to become the people. I always ask people that whenever they go and they get these huge spending budgets and they can go and get all the nice toys they want. And I was like, what's that for? Oh, don't worry, that's for terrorists and drug dealers. No, seriously, what's that for? Because you don't need all that for drug dealers. Local police can handle that. And then they're like, oh, well, I don't know. Do you think that's going to be for me and you one day? I mean, seriously, let's think about this. The government just they don't get things and then not use them. And according to the federal government now, they're going to be using tools developed for the global war on terror to combat domestic extremism, which at any given time could be any one of you. According to National Defense Authorization Act and the Patriot Act and what defines you as a terrorist. 72 types. Watch that video. I put it up twice. Go see what one you are. Do you believe in freedom? You're a terrorist. Do you own a Bible? You're a terrorist. That's really all it takes. But this says, we held in New York that Congress cannot compel the states to enact or enforce a federal regulatory program. Today we hold that Congress cannot circumvent that prohibition by conscripting the state's officers directly. The federal government may neither issue directives requiring the states to address particular problems, nor command the state's officers or those of their political subdivisions to administer or enforce the federal regulatory program. Matters not whether policymaking is involved. And no case-by-case weighing of the burdens or benefits is necessary. Such commands are fundamentally incompatible with their constitutional system of dual sovereignty. That's true. And then you got the president saying that no amendment is absolute. Yes, they are. They're God-given rights. They are indeed absolute. People were happy about that on different comments I was reading, and they're like, yeah, no amendment's absolute. Okay, well, what happens when it's something you believe in? Because it will come to that. Okay, so freedom of speech is not absolute, right? Shut up. Oh, the Third Amendment, no quartering of troops. Oh, no amendment's absolute. You're going to live with a couple soldiers for a month. And you got to do what they say. It's their house. Oh, no amendment's absolute. We can search your car whenever we want because community caretaking. You see how this works? You see how they roll this stuff in under the guise of combating something that you don't agree with at the time? Like, for instance, the post 9/11 era, the whole start of the war in Iraq, and all of the Patriot Act, all of these different tyrannical bills that we all got behind. We waved our flags. We said never forget. We made songs about it. And we said, yeah, go get 'em, boss. Now guess what? The tables have turned. The fox is in the hen house. And we are now on that list. Believe that or not. That is the truth. Constitutional carry. The bill authorizes adults to carry a handgun without first having to get government permission. Pretty sure you can already do that. It's called the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Pretty sure government permission's an infringement, folks. So, again, pound salt. Additionally, legislation maintains the existing concealed weapon permit system so people who still wish to obtain a permit may do so. Well, that's great. While such permitless or constitutional carry bills do not directly affect federal gun control, the widespread passage of permitless concealed carry laws in states subtly undermines federal efforts to regulate guns. As we've seen with marijuana and industrial hemp, federal regulation becomes ineffective when states ignore it and pass laws encouraging the prohibited activity anyway. Yes, the federal government lacks the enforcement power necessary to maintain its ban, and people will willingly take on the small risk of federal sanctions if they know the state will not interfere. This increases when the state actively encourages the market. Yes, all of this can be done. The only problem is that the federal government can still cut funding to these states, and I hope and pray that these states are like, we don't care, we'll fund ourselves. They can do that. Under the Constitution, well, the Congress has power to coin money, but the states can also decide which currency they can decide which currency to use. If a state decides that you can barter and trade, that will be your state's currency. Because the way that this government was set up and the way that our society was set up, the states are individual countries within a bigger country. That's why we have state laws. The federal government was never supposed to get involved with the states. The Constitution specifically says, it specifically delegates powers to the federal government. They could do no more, no less. And a lot of people are running around with misinformation saying that in times of emergency, the federal government can suspend the Constitution. No, they don't have that power. They wrote on paper that they do have that power, but constitutionally they don't. You know what they can do? The only power the federal government has constitutionally during an emergency and declaration of martial law is to suspend habeas corpus. That's it. That is it. They don't have the power or the right under the Constitution to suspend the Bill of Rights. They don't have the power under the Constitution to suspend our system of government. They don't have the power to do a lot of things that they do nowadays. And we just let it go. You know why? Because we were all way too busy. Way too busy. We were going to work, taking care of our families, watching television, doing whatever else, not caring about anything except that. Nero fiddled while Rome burned. Anyway, this one just basically says state actions such as passing this would lower barriers for those wanting to defend themselves, whatever. That would make federal efforts to limit firearms much more difficult. It now moves to the Senate. Has been assigned to the powerful Judiciary Committee. There, it must pass a majority vote before moving forward in the legislative process. So, South Carolina, I really hope you stick to this. I wanted to read a little bit of this because I'm going to start getting into the history of the Illuminati. I'm going to start getting into major wars that they have been behind, major events that they have been behind, really getting down into the nitty-gritty, just so people that come here, we can all be on the same level. I want everybody to be on the same level and understand all of this with the same perception that I have. It's sort of lengthy, but we'll go ahead and we'll start reading this. And mind you, oh, I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. Oh, mind you, there is a ton of proof of existence of the plot for a new world order, one world government, and the existence of the Illuminati, which is what they call themselves, actually. It means enlightened ones. They call themselves that. Oh, I just remembered that I lost my Zippo. 1 second. Yes, there is a ton of evidence out there of existence of this. People try saying, oh, they don't have any, these conspiracy theorists, they don't have any real proof. Actually, there's a ton. And if you ignore it, in this day and age, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. Anyway, history of the Illuminati. The Illuminati traced their origins back thousands of years to their conception as a result of genetic inbreeding between reptilian extraterrestrial race and humanity. We know it's the fallen ones. This is why they have positioned themselves as the world's rulers. Because of the fallen angels. You know what's actually really funny I just thought of? Los Angeles, they call it the city of angels. But if you actually go back to its roots, it was originally called the city of fallen angels. That's exactly what it is. Their modern origin, however, traces back to the 1760s and a man named Adam Weishaupt, who defected from the Catholic Church and organized the Illuminati, financed by the international bankers. Since then, according to the Illuminati, their top goal has been to achieve a one world government and to subjugate all religions and governments in the process. Illuminati thus attribute all wars since the French Revolution as having been fomented by them in their pursuit of their goals. Weishaupt wrote out a master plan in the 1770s outlining the Illuminati's goals, finishing on May 1st, 1776. According to the Illuminati, this great day is still commemorated by communist nations in the form of May Day. Yes, they still celebrate it here. It's called, wait, what's it called here? Oh, I know. Hold on. Beltane. It's called Beltane. At the time Weishaupt's ideology was first introduced, Britain and France were the two greatest world powers. So the Illuminati claimed credit for having kindled the Revolutionary War in order to weaken the British Empire and the French Revolution, to destroy the French Empire. That's exactly what happened. When the United States took form, it upset all the kings and queens of the, quote, old world. And that goes back to Secret Destiny of America, which at some point I do want to continue reading that. I read it a while ago. I started it. It was by Manly P. Hall, but things happened in our world that I had to give greater attention to. Excuse me. In the 1780s, the Bavarian government found out about the Illuminati's subversive activities, forcing the Illuminati to disband and go underground. For the next few decades, the Illuminati operated under various names and guises, still in active pursuit of their ultimate goal. According to the Illuminati, Napoleonic Wars were a direct result of Illuminati intervention and were intended to weaken the governments of Europe. One of the results of these wars was the Congress of Vienna, supposedly brought about by the Illuminati, who were attempted to form one world government in the form of a League of Nations. However, Russia held out and the League of Nations was not formed, causing great animosity toward the Russian government on the part of the Illuminati. The Illuminati contend that they have achieved control over the world's economy by controlling the international bankers in their effort to create a one world government. And P.S., now, in this modern day, 2021, they are the closest that they have ever been before. They are so close. That's why they keep talking about this historic window of opportunity, and it's a unique window of opportunity. Yes, it is. They tried all this time, and they keep backing it up and backing it up. But now, they can. And they will. Their short-term plan foiled. The Illuminati adopted a different strategy. Illuminati say that they achieved control over European economy through the international bankers and directed the composition of Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto and its antithesis written by Karl Ritter in order to use the differences between the two ideologies to enable them to divide larger and larger members of the human race into opposing camps so they could be armed and then brainwashed into fighting and destroying each other. And if you've read these and you've read about all of that, you know that that's what happened. Under new leadership by an American general named Albert Pike, the Illuminati worked out a blueprint for 3 world wars. We read that letter. It's way at the bottom, like my first 3 videos. Throughout the 20th century, that would lead to a one world government by the end of the 20th century. According to the Illuminati, the First World War was fought to destroy Tsarism in Russia. Illuminati had held a grudge against the Tsarist regime since Russia had thwarted its plans for one world government after Napoleonic Wars and to establish Russia as a stronghold of communism. Likewise, the Illuminati claimed the Second World War pitted the fascists against the political Zionists so as to build up international communism until it equaled in strength that of the United Christendom. According to Illuminati plans, the Third World War, which is to be fought between political Zionists and leaders of the Muslim world, will drain the international community to the extent that they will have no choice but to form one world government. And you can see here at the bottom, back to Illuminati home. Yeah. This website that I got, ton information. This is just the first part. But I'm going to end it there for today. I rambled a lot. So, if this video gets taken down, I am already suspended on AustinFromOhio 2. I will be posting on 3 and 4. So if you have not subscribed, please subscribe. I will leave the link to those and Odysee in the description box. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen.